In this week's video, I have some tips to help you get even more from your digital camera. So if, like me, you love photography and you're keen to learn how to take better photos, please stick around and enjoy the video. Welcome to the Photo Genius channel. Hi, Paul here from Photo Genius. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm a Brisbane-based photographer. I run courses and workshops and also create tutorials just like this one to help others improve their camera technique and photography skills. Now I want to start by taking a look at a useful camera feature that can help you avoid overexposing your images. Overexposure is the term that we use to describe an image or parts of an image as being too bright. Sometimes so bright that the detail is lost and all we have is white. Take a look at this image of a pelican. At first glance it looks great, but zoom in and this spot has no detail because the highlights have been clipped due to overexposure, whereas this image taken just a few seconds later is perfectly exposed with plenty of feather detail. Now to help avoid this, let me show you the highlight feature that is available in most cameras. So here is an image of a tree taken with a Canon camera. If I press the info button, we get to see the camera settings. Another press, and as well as the histogram, you may sometimes notice that parts of the image on the left will be flashing. This makes it easy to see what parts of the image are overexposed. This is also referred to as clipping or blowing out the highlights. Now if you're using a Nikon camera, then this feature sometimes has to be turned on first via the menu. I'll show you how to do it in just a few moments. Now bonus tip, if overexposure is a problem, then try changing the camera settings to reduce how much light is captured. If you're shooting in the manual mode, this can be done by adjusting the shutter, aperture or ISO so the light meter shows a minus reading. But if you're using the program, aperture or shutter priority, then simply adjust the exposure compensation. I've made a separate video all about this. You might want to check it out next, so I've included a link in the video description. You'll find it down below this video. Now another useful way in which you can monitor exposure levels is to keep an eye on the histogram. This is a graph and visual representation of the range and frequency of tones captured in an image, with black on the far left and white on the far right. I've also made a video that takes a detailed look at histograms, but for now all you really need to know is if your image is flashing, then this will also be shown as a peak-in on the histogram. Now if you're having trouble finding the histogram, don't worry, that brings me on to my next tip. With most Nikon cameras, by default, when you press the playback button, all you see is the last image taken. To see more, press the menu, and in the playback menu look for playback display options. Now you can tick as many of the boxes as you like, but I recommend highlights and overview only. So now when you press playback, you see the original image, but press up or down on the multi-selector button and you now also have an overview of the camera settings. That includes the histogram. And press again if you want to see the highlights view. With this Canon T7 1500D, press the display button once for camera settings and again for the histogram. This is also your highlight view. Note no flashing here, so it looks like I did a good job. Now I have to say, sometimes you can have too much information. For example, here is the Canon R50. Press playback to see the image, press info for camera settings, press again for highlights and histogram, another press for lens info, white balance, picture styles, and there's more. For me, that's way too many button presses when all I want to do is get back to the start and view the original image. So to simplify this, press the menu button and in the playback menu look for playback information display and then choose how much or little you need to see. Personally, I just tick the first two boxes so I can see the camera settings, histogram and highlight view. Now, if you're enjoying the video and picking up some good tips, please consider giving this video a like. You'll find the button somewhere down there. It means the YouTube algorithm is more likely to show it to other photographers just like you, and it really helps the channel grow. Now, I have a great bonus tip for anyone watching that is using a mirrorless camera like this one. Did you know that when you press the playback button, as well as viewing the image on the LCD screen on the back of the camera, you can also see it through the viewfinder? Now, for me, this is an absolute game changer, especially if you're shooting outside on a bright day. It's a feature of mirrorless cameras that is often overlooked, and I love it. Now, coming up next, I want to share some tips to help you if you're using manual focus. Now, whilst autofocus does a great job and is the choice for many, some photographers still prefer the precise control that manual focus allows, particularly macro, astrophotographers, and even landscape photographers. So let's start with focus peaking. Now, this is a feature that will highlight the areas of the image that are in focus. It works by analysing the image in real time, detecting edges and areas of high contrast, and then outlines these areas with a colour, often of your choosing. Now, focus peaking is not always turned on by default, but if your camera has it, you'll find it in the camera menu. If you have a Canon camera, amongst the autofocus options in the menu, look for manual focus peaking settings. Here you can turn peaking on or off. You can also adjust the sensitivity level and also choose the color of the overlay. With most Nikon cameras, the same feature can be found in the shooting and display submenu, where you can also choose the level of sensitivity as well as the color. Now, if you're using a Nikon DSLR camera, there is a really cool feature called rangefinder. This can be used to help you when manually focusing a lens. Now, rangefinder is a generic term for a type of camera that uses a dual or split image focusing system. It's found in older cameras but rarely seen now, with a few exceptions, such as the M range of cameras from Leica. To try this out, go to the Setup menu and look for Rangefinder, then turn it on. Now, this feature is really designed as an aid when manually focusing the lens. So if your lens has a switch, select M for manual focus. If not, then change the focus mode to MF in camera. Also note that using autofocus area mode, I selected the central autofocus point. Now, this mode is also designed to be used either in aperture priority, shutter priority, or the program mode. All you have to do is look through the viewfinder, point the camera at your subject, and then adjust the focus ring on the lens. You will see the camera's exposure indicator or light meter now acts as a rangefinder, helping you to get the perfect focus. Indicators to the right show that the focus is behind the subject, whereas indicators to the left show the focus is in front of the subject. When the indicators are centralized, the subject is in focus. Now, this feature should work in any of the camera modes with the exception of manual, so why not give it a go and try it for yourself? So next, I want to take a look at a camera feature that may be useful for some of you who really wish you could get a little bit closer to your subject. With some types of photography, such as sports and wildlife for example, you may often find that you physically cannot get as close to the subject as you would like. Now, of course, a telephoto lens would be a good addition to your kit, and adding a teleconverter can get you even closer. But all of these things come at a cost. So did you know that some cameras have a digital teleconverter built in? Now, this can be used to increase the shooting magnification and get you even closer to your subject. Now, of course, you can use software to crop your image and effectively get the same result. That's exactly what I did with this moonshot. But if you're not ready for editing just yet, or you don't have the software, this can be a real useful feature. But I do need to point out that any type of cropping will affect the image quality. Now, if you do like photographing things that are further away, chances are you're going to be using a telephoto lens like this one, so a timely reminder that camera shake can be a real problem, as the extended focal length of the lens will exaggerate any movement of the camera. This can result in blurry images. So take advantage of image stabilization if your lens or your camera has it. But also a reminder to turn it off if the camera is on a tripod and you're using slow shutter speeds. Often the case if you're shooting in low light or doing night photography. Okay, so that wraps up this week's video, and I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button and of course subscribe if you wish to learn more from me about your camera and the art of photography. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.